What's the basic reason behind mental health issues becoming more common in India?
There's no one particular reason. It's a culmination, it's a cluster of a lot of things being put together.
Attention spans of the people are getting smaller and smaller. They can't even wait to swipe a 15-second reel. What could be the reason behind that?
Thanks to social media, like that's what they've done for us. It is immediate gratification, as you call it, right? Like when you get something so quickly, your desire to want something even more quicker takes a rise, right?
The word depression has been used very casually nowadays. The people don't understand the difference between what is depression and what is a bad mental health. So, how can someone identify whether they are having a depression or whether it's just a bad day for you? Nishtha Shah Bharadwaj, special educational needs consultant and psychotherapist, the founder of Braintism in Rajkot. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for being here on the very first episode of Voices of Impact with Arjun Mirani. And I'm glad to have you because of a personal reason, like as I'm associated very closely to mental health for myself and those around me. Plus, I do meditate a lot, and it is a huge pleasure to have you as a mental health professional on my very first episode. So, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So, for the audience, we'll start with just very basics. What's the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist? Because that's the two simple terms that a lot of people gets confused between.
So, a psychiatrist is somebody who, once you go consult, is going to help you with prescription, who's going to help you understand if you have a clinical diagnosis and if the medical intervention is required or not to support the recovery or the progress in your condition. A psychologist is somebody who will help you identify what areas need to be worked upon and what practical strategies and changes you can bring about in your daily life, and it's a process where you feel empowered yourself, whereas through the intervention of a psychiatrist you're depending on the medications to see the desired changes. With a psychologist you are able to feel empowered by making the changes yourself under the guidance of the psychologist.
And you working as a psychotherapist, how is it different from the earlier two terms?
Right. So a psychotherapist is somebody who would use a lot of scientific based researched strategies which are meant to give the desired changes. These are strategies which are client driven. These are strategies which keep the client in the center of it. They're very, very subjective and customized to the needs of the client. So we see really good results and we see them for the longest time. There's no relapse or regression.
Right. And you also work as a special educational needs consultant. So, does that relate with any topics related to psychologist or psychotherapist or psychiatrist as well? Or that is something different that you consult the normal children's?
Right. So, a special educational needs consultant, basically, that area of my work is for the children and individuals who are diagnosed with learning difficulties or any kind of a special need. So, mental health is a huge umbrella term. It's not something which is kind of separate, but special needs basically focuses on access arrangements. It focuses on how do people with a particular diagnosis, how can we help them become a part of our society and take inclusion on the forefront.
So, what's the basic reason behind mental health issues becoming more common in India, as just like all over the world and in developed countries, which is having mental health issues more common already, but we are seeing a more jump in the problems the people are facing with the mental health in India as well. So, is there any particular reason behind that?
There's no one particular reason for the diagnosis rate going high. It's a culmination, it's a cluster of a lot of things being put together. The majority one being of not having a lot of human connect and human touch. With the advancement of technology, with the advancement of social media, people are really connecting online. People are having their own community, they're having their own tribe to kind of hang out with. But the real life connections that people need in life, where you can just openly have a conversation with somebody where you feel accepted, where you feel loved, where you feel that, okay, this person's not judging me. I think that is genuinely missing. And people are looking for connections elsewhere. And therefore, that missing human touch could be one of the major reasons.
Could it be because of the Indian family values?
It could be Indian family values. It could also be that if you look at the history of Indian culture, it used to be big joint families before. And now everybody, because of work and because of a lot of other reasons, are preferring to live in smaller nuclear families. And because everybody is so occupied with their daily work, uh, it seems that people are not having enough time to again connect with one another and have the quality time, which can definitely lead to one feeling that, okay, I don't have the actual people that I need in life to feel loved and accepted.
Tier 1 cities were basically feeling this mental health issues since a fair time now, but I can see the increasing numbers in tier 2 cities as well. Is this just because of the fast life, or could it be any other factors?
It's also about see, these are very subjective questions. I could feel depressed or I could feel anxious, and you could also feel those things, but your reasons for feeling that could be particularly very, very separate, right? So a lot of people also struggle because of the work pressure, also because of the responsibilities that are kind of put on their shoulders, and it also could be other societal factors as well. So there is nothing that we can actually pin it down and say that it's only because of this reason that
Mm.
the rates are increasing.
Also, the attention spans of the people are getting smaller and smaller.
Right.
They can't even wait to swipe a 15-second reel. What could be the reason behind that?
Thanks to social media, like that's what they've done for us. It is immediate gratification, as you call it, right? Like when you get something so quickly, your desire to want something even more quicker takes a rise, right? So even if you look, and this is not only in adults, it's there in kids as well. They cannot wait to press the skip ad button every time they are on YouTube or any other platform accessing any content digitally. So because of that, our patience levels have also kind of seen a toss, because you look at online deliveries, you look at food deliveries, you look at everything's just one click away, and you don't have to wait as much as you were waiting earlier. So definitely that will affect how you feel at the end of the day.
I've been listening to one of the podcasts of the neurologist, and what he explained was it's a dopamine spike when you see such kind of reels for 15 seconds that you can get via any other mode, but that 15-second will give you the hope of the something coming up which is not expected, and that rises the dopamine in your body, and suddenly once you are done with the reel it goes down and you're just a swipe away from the next dopamine spike.
Yeah. So that's excitement in very simple terms, right? That you are anticipating something, you are waiting for something. It's like when you're watching a film and when you're about to kind of reach a climax and you're like, oh my god, what's going to happen next? It's that thrill, it's that adrenaline rush that you feel every time you're scrolling. And through these quick experiences of receiving this immediate gratification, immediate spurges of adrenaline, it becomes really difficult to then kind of hold yourself back and not engage in the same experience over and over again.
Also, if you look at the Gen Zs and the people of earlier generations of, let's say, our parents' generation, they have a quite a different level of mental toughness in them. The way they were born, the experience that they have got, and the thing that we are experiencing, including social media and technological boom, does it also make a difference in the toughness that a people has?
Again, toughness is a very subjective matter. If you look at it, the academic demands were not as high and severe back in those days. The competitiveness was not there as much as it is now. The work pressures were not there. You didn't have to meet as many deadlines as you meet right now. So, definitely the pressures were there at that time as well, and the pressures are here now too. But just because the society's way of looking at being tough is changing. Now, if you look at it, Gen Zs view toughness as standing up for yourself. You are, somebody is definitely going to look up to you if you are standing up for yourself and if you are having your own opinion, if that makes sense. definitely people would want to become like you. They're going to take inspiration out of that. So toughness, certainly, the parameters might have changed, but I don't think that people have become less tough or they're more sensitive. I think it's the same, but our perception towards toughness might have changed.
Yeah. Also, there is a very recent study that has been conducted in US
Hmm.
in March 2024 about the mental health well-being,
Hmm.
and that has been categorized according to the countries. It was surprising to see UK, Ireland, Australia, those countries ranking way above India. Is it just because of the things we have just literally talked, or is there any special reason why is India, after having so much economical trouble, not having basic needs of the people that we're not being able to fulfill? So there are thousand other problems that India face. Still, the mental health well-being is better than these developed countries.
Hmm. Certainly, you are right with the data that you are representing. Western countries have always been facing a lot more mental health concerns than southern Southeast Asian countries. One of the, again, predominant factors could be of the really great social life that everybody has here. Even though if you're living in a small nuclear family, you will have opportunities to engage with your immediate family or extended family over time and time again. Even though if you look at parenting, like, in Western countries, kids do tend to live separately from their parents at a very early on age. Uh, Specifically looking at India, when people don't have a lot of financial capacities by themselves, living separately is something that they can never think of. Blessing in disguise, it works for you because you've got people around to support you a lot of times. Also, I feel the emotional bonds that are created and the families which they've invested, in raising kids, that also adds a lot of value to your mental well-being when you're an adult, because what you see right now is definitely something that has been instilled in you when you were a lot more younger. So the values, the bonds, the connections, everything that has happened in their childhood will certainly allow them to feel very differently. Differently in the sense they might feel a lot more in control and a lot more intact. And this, somewhere they do know that if we do need help, we do have family members or friends or people that we can access.
In the Western countries, they tend to separate their parents after the age of 18 to make them self-dependent. And in India, it's accordingly as we see, they don't tend to leave the family until they die, until
Mm.
their parents die.
Mm. Mm.
So it comes with the pros and the cons,
Right.
but the reason behind it that we are specifically talking about the mental health, I think it makes a huge difference.
It does. Like, even if you honestly just think of living in a house all alone and just knowing that, oh, you do have roommates, you do have flatmates, even though they're not related to you by family or by blood, you still know that there are people in and around who you can just talk to. It's not necessarily for support all the time, but humans are innately made in a way that we survive and we thrive on connections. So when you are living in a house which is full of family members, and especially the ones with whom you connect, it has a lot of advantages.
COVID-19 has affected everyone. Has it specifically decreased or increased the mental toughness of people?
I would say it has certainly increased a lot of awareness in them as individuals. It has increased a lot of, it definitely would have increased the tolerance capacities of people as well, because a lot of people who've been working throughout the day were kind of forced to stay indoors to keep themselves safe, right? So people have become more aware, people have become more tolerant towards one another. And a lot of good things have also come out of COVID-19, that people have learned that you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So you might as well, you know, not feel as pressurized about work and might as well invest your time in family, in emotions, and not just be in the rat race to reach somewhere.
Since the discussion of mental health is not really common in India, at least outside of the tier 1 cities, they tend to restrict themselves. The people who are facing mental health issues, they don't come out openly. And even when they do, most of the society tend to isolate them because there is not enough awareness in the society. How can we deal with such problems where people can come out easily, and even the people on the receiving end can accept such thing boldly and easily to make others comfortable?
I think there is not a lot of awareness, or they don't know exactly what happens when you do seek a professional, because it's that gray area. When you've been taken to a hospital, that some blood tests will happen. Somebody's gonna hospitalize you. You're gonna have a doctor who's gonna come up for a checkup, and after a few days, you'll be back to normal. Because this is it's a passive process for others, but it's an active process for the individual undergoing therapy, right? When you talk about psychotherapy, or when you talk about talk therapy, people will say, what do you talk about? That you could do it with a friend, that you could do it with a family. How is that different? But the whole process is to help the client unwind, to process that why did something actually happen, and why did they react the way they did, and there's nothing wrong in the way they reacted, right? So maybe if more awareness and more information is out there in knowing that this is something which is not going to harm them. In fact, it is something that will actually make them feel so empowered. And once your cup is full, you'll be able to fill out the cup for others as well.
The main issue the people suffering with mental health face is the fear of being judged. Because of the same reason of the lack of awareness, they tend to feel very judged. So usually they don't come out, but when they come out, it's important on the receiving end again to handle this fragile situation very maturely rather than escalating it for someone. Uh, does the psychotherapy play a part in this, or are there other ways where normal people can include mental health awareness in their, I would not say daily life, but as a routine at least, so they can stay updated about their mental health?
I think the first thing your Arjun is to kind of accept and be aware that it's okay to feel sad. Like just how it's okay to have a few negative thoughts. Like when you thought of this podcast, I'm sure you did think that what if it doesn't work out. But that does not diminish the possibility of it working out and probably turning out to be the best show, right? So when you talk about emotional toughness, when you talk about the family support, human beings are innately not designed to experience negative emotions. And the basic function of the human brain is to ensure that you are safe and you are surviving, right? So when you're experiencing a sad emotion, nobody around you is going to like it, because it's going to affect your behavior, it's affecting how your day is going. So they're going to try and make you feel better by saying, oh, it's okay, everybody goes through this. Oh, it's fine, you will overcome this, give it time, let time heal. But to answer your question, if people start becoming okay with everybody experiencing different emotions, that's your first step.
A lot of parents as well in this scenario tend to believe that my child might be facing some issues, some mental health challenges, but they should talk to us, it should come out openly, they should let us know everything, and everything should be fine. But sometimes the levels are much higher. How can they identify this?
I would say that do not have any set parameters. As parents, maybe they feel that this is the right way in which their child should go about something, whether it is academics, whether it is life decisions, or whether it is expressing how they actually feel. Just how we have our own preferences. Just like, every time you go to a restaurant, you don't order the same food. Or just even if you go on regular holidays, all your holidays look so different because you want to have a different experience. So in the same manner, in the same thought process, if we are trying to understand this, even kids will have their own ways of expressing, they'll have their own means through which they want to express. So if they can become active listeners, if they can kind of provide them that space and encourage them that it's okay for you to come and tell us whatever it is that you want to tell us. At the end of the day, we are all human beings, and the only factor differentiating us is the age, right? If they are also having a bad day at work, they could come home and talk to the child and say, listen, I've had a really horrible day, and because of that, I'm going to overeat because the food makes me feel better. So when you start normalizing such experiences for your kids, you are internally normalizing it for them, that it's okay for you to experience whatever emotions that are coming through. Emotions are for us to know that we are feeling. We are able to sense what is happening in and around us, and that is our system's way of telling us that this is how a particular situation is making you feel.
Hmm. The word depression has been used very casually nowadays. The people don't understand the difference between what is depression and what is a bad mental health, which is easily treatable, but depression might require more therapies and more attention
Mm.
towards this. So, how can someone identify whether they are having a depression or whether it's just a bad day for you? It's a big difference, I guess.
Huge difference. See, there is something called as being diagnosed with clinical depression, right? And the word clinical is important here because there are standard protocols that you kind of need to fulfill and have for you to be diagnosed as being clinically depressed. There is a standard manual that we use. It's called DSM-5, which kind of has a full list of criterias and symptoms, and it says that a particular experience of depression, whether it is loss of interest in everyday life, feeling of constant sadness, nothing kind of motivates you, nothing makes you happy, if that has been persistent for over 6 months of time, if it has been disturbing or coming in the way of your personal life and your professional life, then you are kind of fulfilling the criteria of being depressed with the other list of symptoms and characters, right? The reason depression is being handled so lightly is because we as individuals don't really know the difference between feeling anxious, feeling sad, being agitated, or being angry. So, because these words are used around us so frequently, we think, oh, yeah, even I am feeling depressed. But the person who is actually depressed is only going to know what it is to be depressed and how difficult it is for them to kind of deal with even the tiniest of the tasks on a daily basis. So I would say that individuals should kind of read up more. They should be fully aware, before. It's like how people use OCD so lightly. Like if somebody is very, very organized, we, casually say that, oh, this guy's got OCD. He really wants everything set in a certain manner. But OCD is just not about organizing and having things in a certain way. It's a lot more. And once if you do know what the full condition kind of is, then I'm sure you'll not be as uh, carefree about
Mm,
using these terms.
yeah. Even the depression, I'm not sure if it has the levels like cancer, because as we say from stages, does it also differ like?
Yeah, again, it's a very subjective condition. It is something that a lot of people. So, again, as I said, if both of us are diagnosed with depression, it might look very different. You could be out and about doing your work, you could be hanging out, you could be socializing, you could be smiling, you could be acing your work. But the moment you come home, the moment, you know, things start going southways for you. And for me, it might look like complete isolation, poor hygiene, poor diet, a lot of things going haywire. So it's again a very, very subjective experience that everybody kind of has. And therefore, the treatment also has to be subjective. It's not one size fits all. When you take the medications, they're going to be mood stabilizers, they're going to be mood they're going to light you up, they're going to make you feel better, but that's not something that lasts for a very long time. So till the time you do not bring in the changes, till the time you do not bring in the necessary amendments and lifestyle changes that are required, you will continue to feel so.
I can connect to one of the topic that you brought up, like two people can behave very differently considering the depression effect. A lot of cricketers, a lot of Bollywood stars, after they've come out of the depression, they've let the people know that they have been through this, but no one has been able to identify this. Is there any particular training that is being provided to look normal, or is it just depression affecting them differently?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, Arjun, that everybody also has a aspect of their personality that they kind of put out when they are amongst people, right? And especially when you talk about celebrities, when you talk about superstars, they are demanded to look and be a certain way. I would say that it's a great thing that they're coming out and saying that, they have been through something like this. It has actually been so much easier for people to now let people around them know, because now everybody else in the society is able to say, oh yeah, even Deepika Padukone faced something like this. And when they say this, it comes with a lot of responsibility, and it also comes with a lot of social enthusiasm that, okay, now we can drive the change, because people who we look up to, celebrities who everybody is in awe of, even they are experiencing something like this. So it is kind of normal for you to feel like that too. So it is really breaking the stigma. It is making it really easier for people who are experiencing depression, for them to let people around them know that they need help. And as you said, there's no training. They definitely, they would not have been trained, because it's something so internal that you're feeling. If you're feeling hungry, if you're feeling upset, if you're really angry, how is it that you're going to be able to control it for a sustained longer amount of time? At one point, it's going to come out. One point, you are going to burst about it, right? So I feel that there's no particular training that they undergo.
Rewinding this just a little bit, you talked about OCD. I've had incidents where I've read and maybe have listened as well regarding OCD making the lifestyle better. Actually, once it's at a very lower level where you can where you're not really affected by your daily routine, it actually helps you move forward. Is this true?
The organizing part of OCD can maybe help you to kind
Mm.
of get better. It's also that once you're consistent enough with something that you're doing, it kind of becomes addictive, because you know that when you're doing something, it's gaining you so many results. It's making you reach to that stage that you wanted to, something that you've been looking forward to all this while. So it really helps you to kind of crack the code that if I am being so specific about walking 40 minutes a day, once you start walking, once you start dieting, or once you start meditating, you're not going to see the results or the immediate effects of it. You have to give it time. You got to allow time to kind of let the impact, internal changes impact your outside behavior. So yeah, certainly it will kind of help you to kind of get better.
So people nowadays tend to self-diagnose a lot using the internet because of the information available and also because of the online pharmacies, uh, including the offline pharmacies as well. But the thing is, the medicines are available non-prescribed. A lot of medicine who are threatening to your health, your mental health, are available non-prescribed, which is not the case in the Western countries. How is it dangerous to a normal people?
It is extremely dangerous. There are a couple of reasons why I feel an individual is going to resort to that way of getting access to those medicines. Is because, one, because of having no clarity as to what's happening with you, right? So any internet service provider, they're like knowledge banks. They're going to help you understand based on a lot of theory, that what are you feeling, what is it called, what are the symptoms of something. But they are not diagnostic tools. They are not professionals themselves who can identify that, okay, what you're experiencing is actually a condition, or it's, just something that you are experiencing because of a particular situation or an incident, right? So they do kind of allow you. It's good when you want to kind of order something which you're taking on a regular basis, which is something like a paracetamol, which does not have a lot of harmful side effects. But when you're especially taking specific medicines for a particular cause, it is always recommended that you take somebody's due guidance, so that it does not have the wrong side effects. From my experience at Braintism, we have come across a few clients who have uh, had access to these medicines without a prescription, and it has not ended well. It has not it did not give them the results that they were desiring for. It did not give them the output that they were looking for, and it is certainly harmful. It is not something that will be useful for neither the individual or the people immediate to them.
I went to a hospital recently for one of my family members' health, And I laughed at a quote which said, "Don't compare your Google knowledge with my medical degree."
Yes, yes, it's true, because if you go in and if you say, I have a headache, your head could be hurting because it's hot, it could be hurting because you haven't had enough sleep, it could be hurting because you actually have a migraine, and it could be hurting because something's actually wrong with your brain. But you cannot decide that just by reading information out of Google. You will need somebody to ask you very, very important diagnostic questions, what we call as, that will actually help them decide that is your headache something that requires attention, or it's something that is just gonna pass.
So it's not advisable to use any search engines to get a medical advice or the therapies or the medicines as well. But certainly, I believe it's enough to give you awareness about the mental health. How can a common man keep themselves updated on the mental health using the internet?
So there are really beautiful resources online. There is great literature available. There are a lot of self-help questionnaires. There are a lot of other tools and resources available online which can help you reach out to a right professional, or which can give you enough of a knowledge to base your future decisions on. I feel that a lot of time people resort to making their decisions based on the information they gain through online databases, is because everybody wants clarity. Everybody wants to know that if I am experiencing something, what is it? If you are kind of having to face something on a daily basis, if it is actually hampering your everyday life, you really want to know what it is. And if it is something, then what is the right way to kind of get it addressed? So use the search engines to actually search, gather knowledge, feel equipped that you do know something, and then go visit a professional, or anybody who you trust is going to help you get the desired help that you need.
So while we are promoting the open discussions of mental health and the frequency of it, does over discussing it also causes anxiety, especially to those who are already suffering with mental health issues?
To a lot of individuals who do experience anxiety, going over the same discussion over and over again might not only make them feel more anxious, but it can be frustrating also, because even they know that they don't want to feel like this. Right? And not only just for people with anxiety disorders, but anybody in general would not want to continue feeling upset, sad, or kind of stuck in that same feeling for a very long time. So I would say have meaningful discussions, have discussions which kind of are paving way for something that can happen next, rather than just going over the details of like, oh yeah, I said don't do this, but you still ended up doing this, and that is why you're feeling this. So instead of playing the blame game, instead of identifying what could have actually caused it, if we can focus on the present, if we can focus on something which is more solution driven, it would be more helpful and less frustrating.
Can meditation be one of the solution?
Definitely, meditation or any kind of mindfulness activities will certainly help the individuals. But again, it's like trial and error. You got to find out which key works for the lock that you're having. A lot of people do find meditating as the ultimate solution. A lot of people have recovered greatly, just by ensuring that they are meditating on a regular basis. On the flip side of it, there are people who feel that gymming on a regular basis really helps them to kind of deal with their stress, whether it is running, whether it is lifting weights, whether it is engaging in a swim. But you got to kind of find out what works for you. But meditation does help. But for people who are on the initial stages of where they really don't know what is actually happening to them, when there's no clarity, when there's a lot of confusion, any task will demand attention, but you'll not be able to do it because there's a lot of fog in there. There's lack of clarity. You don't know why it is that you're feeling a certain way, and then if that particular point in time, if I'm asking you to focus, which meditation is all about, that you're focusing on your breathing, it'll be very, very challenging. So I then don't because meditation is something that people do really advise that meditate, it will be really good for you. But to get to that stage of meditating, to get to that stage of where you can actually sit with your eyes closed and not let those thoughts coming to your head kind of have an impact on you is is tough. You kind of got to practice, you got to be consistent, and then you will get there. Because thoughts are like wind, you cannot stop. The function of it is to kind of come and go. But what type of thoughts you can have, what you do with those thoughts, is something that is in our control.
So that's what basically I've learned in the meditation. Exactly, it's like a blue sky and the clouds keep coming and going, but you look at it with the quiet confidence at a distance, and you don't really engage with them anymore. But they're not going to stop, but you can change the way you interact with them. So yeah, that's the first thing. Secondly, uh, children's, especially since your foundation is dedicated to be working with the children and their parents, what mental health issues the children are facing in today's generation?
It is a lot of peer pressure. It is a lot of bullying. It's a lot of performance driven pressure that comes from home, which comes from a certain type of academic institutions where the child is not accepted for being who they are. Everybody kind of sits in with their own set criteria that only if a child is fulfilling A, B, and C is the child eligible to be a part of our organization. Okay, if he's a part of our organization, he needs to be performing at these levels for him to continue being a part of this organization. So the basic premises of receiving quality education, the basic premises of helping the child learn for them to thrive, we're kind of going way far from there. Definitely, these parameters will allow educators to kind of come up with more enhanced learning. But from what I'm seeing in my practice is that the demand of performance, the demand to be a certain way, has risen so high that sometimes even parents feel prey to this. That our child needs to do this just because he has to go to a particular college, or because he has to attend this school, and if he is not up to the mark, then it's a really bad thing, which is not. But as you are saying, the demands have risen really high, and they are affecting mental health in children. The only difference is that their expressions are going to be very different. Their way of dealing with their sadness or remorse is going to be extremely different, because as adults we do understand emotions. We also, through years of experience, know what works best for us. But for kids, it's still all in the exploration phase, and they really don't know how to kind of go about it. So the majority of the support that is required is in that phase of development.
And as you are talking about the raised demands from the children, the demand has been raised up to the extent where they have been getting admissions in some premier schools even before they are born.
Right.
And the pressure that the kid today has to learn from every aspects of life at such a young age, we are seeing there are, don't take me wrong, there's some fantastic kids who are doing some great things. Maybe they are good at singing, balancing at the age of 5 and 6, but a lot of the mass is also dealing with mental health issues because of this, because they are not being allowed to do what they want and rather forced upon.
So that's the thing. They're different, but they're not less, right? When you talk about skills, everybody's got different skill sets, everybody's got different talents. And as, uh, guardians or as mentors or as parents wanting to bring out the best in their own children, it comes with the responsibility of letting them be and letting them identify what's best for them. Definitely, you got to be in the process to help them make the right decisions, to help them, but expose them to all the right things, which will then eventually allow them to pick and choose that, okay, painting is something which is actually making me feel like nothing else is making me feel. And today's world is all about excellence. It's about, nobody wants to be jack of all. It's, you got to be the best at whatever it is that you are doing, and if you're doing that, then it's not going to be difficult for you to make money or for you to become successful. Because when you're passionate, when you know that this is my liking, you're going to be as dedicated and as involved and as committed. And those are the pillars of kind of getting close to success.
But before the children goes into the adult life, at the young age, they cannot really figure out what they want to do. But on a flip side, are parents expecting too much from the kids?
There's a great mix of parents who are really okay with kids being how they are. There's this big chunk of parents who really want to be on the top of it, where you say extracurriculars, you say drawing, you say academics, you say communication, everything's got to be perfect, everything's got to be 10 out of 10. But in that, we are forgetting that they're kids, they're not robots, they are not models that you can code, they are not instruments that you can tune. They are going to dance to their own tunes, and that's the beauty about it, that you can mold them, you can definitely help them flourish, but you cannot put them in a prototype, and you cannot say that this is how you got to be and this is how you ought to be.
So, how does your organization, Braintism, help such kids with mental health issues in the matter of therapies, consultation to the parents, and everything in general?
So we have a very beautiful program which we called as emotion regulation at Braintism, and it is for everybody. It does not require for you to have a diagnosis. It does not require to be identified with something. It is for everybody to learn how to express, to learn how to regulate what it is that you're feeling, because you have to feel all the emotions. You cannot pick and choose. You cannot always choose to be happy, and you cannot always choose to have success. Everything's kind of got two sides of it. So what Braintism does is that it empowers the child, it empowers every individual who comes there to learn why is it that they are feeling what is it that they are feeling, and what is it that you can do with those feelings. And once, if you provide the right channel, if you allow them to channelize their emotions, if you allow them to feel exactly what it is that they're feeling, then you are getting them a lot more closer, to kind of be the best version of themselves. You're allowing them to not bottle up everything. You're allowing them to have a very healthy outlet, that, okay, yeah, mom, I broke the favorite vase that you loved in the house. But I'm sorry, it happened because maybe I rushed in the door, rather than thinking, oh, mom's not gonna lie, and because I have got to be in the best of her books, I'm just gonna say, oh, the wind was blowing so fast and the vase fell. So you are empowering them, you're making them feel more confident about who they are. And when you are feeling confident, when you are so comfortable being the person you are, you're kind of in the best state of mind.
Children that you deal with are not just with the mental health issues, but you also deal with the children who need special education needs. So, how does that differ from the therapies they are seeking, or these therapies are they same for both the thing? It's just the matter of intensity that you give differently.
Uh-huh. Say for example, for somebody who's been diagnosed with autism, so for them, we kind of have something what we call as a functional assessment, where we kind of observe the child and we identify the gaps in their learning styles. We identify what is it that they can still achieve, so that their development can be aided. So there is something what we do at Braintism which is called occupational therapy. It's a universal therapeutic standardized protocol which kind of allows the child to learn, progress, and grow as per the demands of the age. So, for a child with developmental delay or autism, they might not be performing up to their own, up to their own standards of their physical age. So, through occupational therapy, we are empowering them, we are helping them learn that, okay, you can play with the toys like this. This is how you do your blocks, this is how you do your puzzles. So, what it is doing is that you are allowing the brain to learn in the right way, so that the same behaviors can keep up occurring. So, if a child is playing with a set of puzzles at Braintism, we want that the child should be able to do that when he's back home, when he's hanging out with his friends, or even when they're out somewhere.
How do you deal with the parents of such children? What advice do you give them? And when you are doing the real life consultation, what are they advised, or are they also been given therapies or trainings like how to raise your child?
Hmm. So we do a mix of both the things that you said, because it's really difficult for a parent uh, to kind of believe and accept that something is different. not wrong, but something is different with their child, because different is not as well accepted in our society. And it's because of that societal pressure that they start feeling that things are not going to continue for them as they're seeing for kids around in their life, right? So the first thing is to be extremely sensitive and to be extremely considerate of their mental headspace also, because they do want to know that what is it that is affecting my child. But it comes with a lot of care, it comes with a lot of consideration that, okay, this is something that has been diagnosed, but it does not mean it's the end of the world. It does not mean that this is a last resort that we have. There are a lot of possibilities, there are a lot of things that can be done. We also introduce them to a lot of other parents, so we've kind of done a community setup at Braintism, which kind of empowers them, because as a professional, me talking to a mother is going to be very different to a mother talking to a mother, or a mother identifying that, I do really struggle with feeding him at home because he does not eat a particular kind of a texture. How is it that you dealt with? Also, when you start learning and knowing that there are people in and around your life space who are experiencing the same kind of struggle, it really does bring a lot of peace, because you know that I am not the only one who's suffering. There are people, and look how far they've come in life. So we definitely advise them. We do kind of provide the right type of support. We do also make them feel empowered by letting them be a part of our sessions. Well, we let them see and experience how are we working with their child, how are we working, and just not working, but how we are also teaching them. Because at Braintism, it's not a care center, it's a specialist intervention center where we start with a few objectives which we want to kind of achieve by the end of 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. And we also want to see that these changes kind of stay permanent. So if the child is just coming to Braintism for an hour or two, whatever input is kind of put in there, if the same way is kind of carried forward at home, we are kind of going to see a lot more results. We also do the same for the kids who go to school. So a lot of kids who do attend Braintism are going to a lot of mainstream schools in the city. So we are in very close contact with the school, where we let the teachers know that this is how you can support this child in class and outside class.
How acceptable are these parents once you are letting them know about their child's mental health condition and they figure it out that he is not normal? That's what the feeling they get. Actually, they are treatable, as you said, and they can behave normal after a certain period of time. But how do you deal with them?
I think the main key here is to let them know that there is scope. What makes it most difficult is knowing that this is the reality forever. But once they know that, no, the progress is possible, there are things which can be achieved, there are things and factors which can be corrected, I think they are a lot more at peace. And once you let them know that it's no rocket science, it's not something so difficult that only we as professionals can do, there are so many things that you can do it in your time, at home, with your baby, and that is certainly going to help them grow. They also feel that, okay, we are also the change makers in our child's life.
Such parents, when you let them know about this condition, they're also worried about the therapies that they can seek, because mostly a lot of them are clueless. They are not sure what they're going to do. They're going to inject them, they're going to give them some pills, or maybe it's the therapies. So what can a common parent uh, from our audience can have a basic idea of what the treatment looks like?
So everything for children is play based. That's their main occupation. Everything, kids love to play, kids love to move around, kids love to engage in things that you are kind of providing for them. So whatever therapies we are doing at Braintism, or predominantly most of the therapies for child care across the globe, are or should be play based, because that's when you know that the child is going to engage with you a lot more. You build a rapport with them, you try to understand, you don't want to label them, you don't want to kind of say that whatever you're doing is wrong. Rather, you kind of going to their level and understanding that they are unable to sit because of XYZ reason, they're unable to concentrate because of so and so reasons. So once you try and get into their shoes, it's going to be a lot more easier for you to identify what's going to work for them, because kids through their behavior communicate with us. They tell us that I am uncomfortable or I do not like this. So we got to kind of level up and understand that what is it that they're actually looking for.
When such parents bring their kids to you or similar organizations, uh, until what level they're aware of their child's condition?
So we do have uh, very confused parents, a lot of them, when they come to us, because they would have either consulted somewhere else before, they would have kind of done their own research, or parents who've been to other practitioners and they know that, okay, this is what it is, and what is it, where can we start, what is it that we can do for our children. So we do have a mix of a lot of parents, but majority of the time we have parents who are extremely confused. Why? Because a lot of information is not out there. We have really great practitioners here who can diagnose medically, clinically, and say that, this is what your child is going through. But we have very few centers, we have very few professionals who work in this fraternity to kind of do the after work. When you know that you need physio to kind of strengthen your muscles, we do have physiotherapy centers here, but we don't have setups here which can facilitate the cognitive, the neurological growth in a child.
Also, as a mental health professional, when you are dealing with parents and children, how do you keep yourself mentally fit and, more importantly, focused when switching between parents and a children?
Right. So at the end of the day, it is difficult, it does kind of take a toll on you. I'm going to be really honest with you. But when you are so motivated, when you're so driven to see the change that you want to bring in people's life, and when you see the parents who kind of, when they consulted you, they were full of questions, they were full of worry, there was a lot of uncertainty, and now after a few weeks or few months, when they're able to see a good considerable amount of change, and when they come in to tell you, ki ma'am, he does this now, now we are not facing the same struggle that they used to, it really feeds your soul. And when your soul is fed, I don't think there's anything that you require more than to kind of keep going and continue to be at it.
It doesn't exhaust you once you're
It
interested.
doesn't, it doesn't. When you know what you're doing is creating a lot of impact, it certainly keeps you going.
So, I guess we've talked enough about the problems that the society, the children, and the parents are facing, but let's talk a little bit about the solutions and the myths which are there in the society. I've been communicating with a psychologist, and what I have come across in the field of psychology is the term nature versus nurture. It's a broad term and very famous in the psychological world, but could you explain in a very simple terms to the audience?
So, nature versus nurture is a very, very strong debate, as you've mentioned, in the field of psychology. And the nature part of the debate explains that everything that you're kind of born with, something that you've inherited. So, that's your genes, that's your hormones, that's your personality, and everything that you kind of, that's your biological side of you. When you talk about the nurture side, it is everything that you are provided with and that you're kind of living in, right? So, a certain type of a home environment, the type of school that you go to, the type of people you interact with, everything that kind of leads to your nurturing. And if you look at the debate, most of the discussions are supporting the nurture side of the debate, because that is something where we have a lot of room for growth. That is somewhere where a lot of things can be done, right? When you are born with a few genes, you cannot alter that. There's very little space for modification. But when you talk about the nurturing side, there's so much growth that is possible. That's why you see that there are so many different learning styles and strategies. Or when you are helping a child learn a certain way, you are able to see a considerable amount of change because you provided that nurturing environment. You ensured that there's this beautiful research which talks about kids who are born into households where reading is very, very acceptable, which is very fond of, and because the child is seeing family members around him read, the child tends to become a reader in the future. And when they start school, uh, there is a gap of 8 million words in their vocabulary. So we are talking about babies, have not gone to preschool yet, but there's a gap of 8 million words in their vocabulary to the vocabulary of kids who do not come from a household which is exposed to books, which is exposed to reading. And by 8 million, I don't mean that they would be using those 8 million words, but what I mean is that they would have the clarity. They would know that, okay, these are the words, this is what it means. And in the future, you will be able to kind of see them utilizing those words in their language. So the environment does kind of have a lot of impact in the style and in the way you learn and grow.
So we'll move towards debunking some common myths that the society has. The very basic myth is seeking help for mental health issues is a sign of weakness.
It's really actually a strength when you actually get to see to it that you identify it within yourself that something is not okay, something is not working out for me. And it takes a lot of courage to find faults within yourself and to say that this needs to be corrected, right? So it is certainly a myth. It is not a sign of weakness. It takes a lot of courage to go and talk to somebody who you don't know, to kind of completely uh, get open and discuss about things which have got you to where you are, and you are letting somebody into your life, and then come up with strategies and say, okay, you can correct this, you can amend this, and through this you will be able to reach to a desirable stage, right? So it is not a sign of weakness. It takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of strength, and it takes a lot of commitment, because coming to therapy is not an easy task. It is not something that you can do for fun. It's not something, it is serious business. You get invested, the therapist is invested, and it's a long process of unraveling, of finding out, of it's a lot of digging up. And once a lot of digging up has been done, it's also about identifying that what can I do so that everything gets back to alignment.
And a lot of people are also not just seeking mental health because they are mentally ill, like they're facing challenges like autism or any other mental disease, but also to increase their productivity. The companies are hiring psychologists and such professional mental health professionals to get the more out of their employees. So it's not a weakness in any sense, I believe.
It's not. If you look at MNCs, if you look at very renowned organizations, they are making it a point that if they're not hiring somebody on board, they do have their employees going and meeting somebody on a regular basis. Because if you are demanded to be so efficient in your work, you got to be efficient in the inside as well. And once on the inside, if you are as efficient, your output efficiency is certainly going to shine, right? So people don't only just seek counseling for problems or concerns that they're facing, but they also seek counseling to ensure that they can become more efficient in their profession, so that they can become better leaders, so that they can become better bosses, or they can become better partners, not only for work, but in their relationships as well.
Right. So that debunks our second myth as well, which was therapy is only for people with severe mental illness, which is certainly not.
It is certainly not the case.
The next one is once you start therapy, you will be in it forever.
It doesn't work like that. People who do start therapy do come in with a set goal, do come in with a list of aspects of themselves that they want to be corrected, or they want to be amended, or for them to see a certain kind of a progress or a change in them. Definitely, learning is never ending. Definitely, progress does not come with its own set of growth. But counseling is time bound. Therapy is time bound, because the whole objective of getting into therapy for the therapist is to ensure that your client feel empowers. Your client feels that they are in a lot of control of their own selves, that they can make the best of the decisions for themselves. So it is not something you can choose to continue to seek sessions with your therapist, but it is not on a terms of every week, every 2 weeks. It is something that you can choose to do it as a follow up meeting, as to discuss progress, and to see that, okay, if there is some room available for you to kind of still get better at it, you can. A lot of my clients kind of take sessions with me regularly for the time being that they need constant help and guidance, and then once we've achieved what we had kind of decided, then we take a really good break. And only once, if they do require anytime in the future, then do they contact me and say that, okay, we do need a session. Speaking to a therapist and taking a session are certainly two different things. Yeah.
Another interesting one is therapy is only for individuals. It doesn't benefit couples or families.
I would say that if you are, if in a garden full of plants, if you just end up watering one plant, it doesn't flourish the whole garden, right? So when an individual takes therapy or takes any type of counseling, you are not only benefiting the individual, but you are benefiting the whole family. You are ensuring that their relationship kind of gets better. And on the flip side, individuals who do struggle with poor relationships or are struggling with issues at home also take counseling, because it's a big step to know that something that we are doing is actually creating a problem. So if we can start doing something a little differently, the problem would be resolved on its own. So therapy is not only for individuals, but it is for people in general, whether you are a family member, whether you are a partner in a relationship, or you are an individual yourself.
Also, how does the parents, such parents, can create a supportive environment for upbringing their child, especially in this digital age where there are so many distractions?
I would say that have some basic home rules, something that everybody in the family can follow, which can be no phones allowed on the table. And it has to be something that everybody in the house does it, whether it's a grandparent, whether it's a child, or whether it is you as a parent. Or, have quality time where when you say that, okay, we are all reading book, all of you are sitting down and reading a book. You cannot only expect a child to do a few things and say, I'm not going to do it because it's for your benefit, right? When you talk about the digital age, everybody needs a digital detox. And everybody knows that a digital detox is going to make them feel better. So I would say that when you talk about parenting and how parents can provide the right type of a supporting, a nurturing environment, I would say that they should be active listeners, listeners who don't judge, listeners who don't always, don't be always ready to suggest or advise. Sometimes even just listening can make somebody feel really good. Have home rules that everybody in the family follows. If you model the right type of behaviors, if you model the right type of things, the kids are certainly going to learn, and you are kind of making them intact mentally, emotionally, for a very long time.
How can these parents promote their kids to stay away from the digital age, especially the YouTubes, where the parents, what they do on the first basis is if the kid is crying, straight away goes to the YouTube, whether you have a tablet or a phone or a TV in the house. That's the very basic thing in India right now. But how can they escape this and raise the way that we brought up, like while just playing games, as simple as that, going out in the streets, playing with your friends, meeting friends?
It's important to allow some time for that emotion to pass or for that emotion to settle down, right? It's not so urgent. The need is not so immediate that you got to distract the child so quickly. Let the child feel what the child is feeling. Provide support, comfort them, whether it is giving them a hug, whether it is just by being, when they're having a meltdown, being around them. And once they feel calm, ask them what is it that they need. Rather than immediately distracting themselves, you are not even allowing them to fully experience the emotion that they're having. And when you leave something halfway, it's kind of not there, right? And because it's not there, either it's gonna get bottled up, or it's gonna come out as something what you call as a meltdown or a tantrum or an outburst. So I would say that give skills to the child when they are in a much calmer state. Help them feel empowered by teaching them that, okay, if you're feeling very frustrated, something that you can do is maybe stomp your feet, right? Maybe if you're feeling like you really want some time alone, you can take that. There are meaningful and mindful ways of feeling and experiencing certain emotions. So when you talk about keeping the kids away from screen, it does not mean that it's a 0-0 screen policy. It means that how can you mindfully and meaningfully engage with the technology and the devices that you have. And once you are mindful about your engagement, the after effects are not going to be so harmful, because you know that you are stopping at a certain time. Nobody has to snatch it away from you, or you are not so dependent or addicted to it.
Hmm. Within your organization, while you're dealing with such kids, these kids are facing the mental health issues that are not expressive. So, what cues and red flags can these parents have before they bring it up to the organization that, like you run?
Right. So we have a few of the common ones could be that you will see immediate changes in their dietary patterns. Either they will start avoiding foods, you will see them not sleeping well, you will see them waking up a lot in between in their nights. You will see a drastic change in their behaviors. You know, a child who is very, very active, who's very, very extroverted, who's very playful, will kind of become very closed, will become very numb to a lot of other experiences. This child will get very clingy. This is a very, very common one, that the child becomes extremely clingy to the caregiver. And it is irritating for the caregivers, because you feel that, oh, up till yesterday you were all playing by yourself. Why is it that you need to hang on to me all the time? But maybe it is that they need the comfort. It is that they are unable to understand something that they're experiencing, and they want somebody to assist them. So, anytime for all the parents watching, if you see a bit of a change in your child's behavior, if you see that something is not how it is like all the time, observe it for a few days, observe it. Analyze it, that in a similar situation your baby was not behaving in this manner. And if you feel that the difference is there, go and consult, so that you have the right strategies, you have the right resources to help your child, so that your goal to make them feel comforted can be achieved faster.
So, what do you mean is to get the second opinion, even though you feel it's normal? It's good to get a second
Yeah,
opinion.
so that it's out of your mind, and if it's out of your mind, it's not gonna bug you
Hmm.
as much.
Yeah. And a three-piece advice that I'm gonna ask now is the normal kids raised by normal parents in a daily life versus the kids raised by the caretakers for working moms versus the IVF babies. How does the mental health differ in all three?
It differs because they are different. We are trying to compare and contrast parameters and things which the only common factor here is kids, and the only common factor here is of parents. Just because they all seem to be different, just because they are all different, does not mean that they are less. All it means is that we kind of got to provide for them, we got to identify that what their needs are, and once those needs are met, everything's going to be afloat.
So I'm sure that the people have got really interesting insights and gained value from this listening and conversation about the mental health of themselves, the parents, and their child as well. But before we finish, do you want to give any more advice to such parents or children as a mental health professional?
All that I want to say is be accepting, whatever love is there inside you, kind of get it all out and let everybody feel that it's okay for everyone to be however and whoever they are. We should not try and correct, we should not try and get somebody to be a certain way, because it kind of sits well in our head. So again, they're different, they're not less. And just like everybody feels different range of emotions, kids also do experience this different range of emotions. So in totality, if we can become more accepting, if we can become more willing to accept their differences, and to say that, yeah, it's okay, my child can feel a certain way, or my partner can feel a certain way, does not necessarily mean they are this way. It is something that they're feeling momentarily, and if it does need attention, address it, and everything will be back in its place.
So I guess the biggest learning from this conversation is mental health is just as common as if you are physically damaged, and it is healable and you can be normal again very quickly. But thanks for being here and giving us another dimension of mental health towards the kids and the parents. And thanks for having such a fruitful conversation with us. I hope the audience has gained much value from this, and we are hoping to get you on the show again. Thank you so much for being here, Nishtha.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.